One, two, three. Listen.
Welcome to the Shoot the Shiitake Show with me, Father Leo Paddling Hug, a Catholic priest on a mission to bring people of all different backgrounds together to learn, to love, and accept one another. Even if we disagree with each other, we got to be willing to listen to each other as God does with us and as we're called to do with each other. And this show isn't about the deep and technical things of faith, but rather making those things practical in our life simply by listening to each other. And this week, I've got the pleasure to listen to Zubi. He's an international and independent rapper, podcast host, author, public speaker, and creative entrepreneur with hundreds and thousands of followers. And he's making a difference in a really good way. And so I'm going to certainly enjoy this conversation and hope you do too. And if you want to support our efforts to bring conversions one conversation at a time, make sure you visit our website, platinggrace.com. Click on the Academy where you can join as a member and select a tier level where you can not only support our efforts, but you will have access to exclusive content as well as some pretty cool perks. But for now, enjoy the show as we shoot the shiitake with Zubi. Welcome, Zubi, to Shoot the Shiitake for this first part interview, getting to know you because you are a unique person on social media. But let me ask you this question first. Have you ever had an interview with a Catholic priest?
No, this is the first time, I must say.
Is this kind of weird for you? When you got the invite to the consideration, what was kind of going on in your mind when you were like, hey, a Catholic priest wants to interview you? Honestly, don't lie to a priest, brother.
No, nothing weird, man. I don't lie to anybody. You probably know this. No, nothing weird about it at all. I speak to such a broad range of people. And yeah, I mean, I had a Protestant pastor do a review of my last music single. So, so in terms of who is being reached and who's reaching out to me, it's all across the spectrum, all across the board. And that's great because I sort of want it to be. I don't want my message to be limited to just one demographic or one type of person. So the fact that so many people across the board in all these different worlds, whether that's your world or the political world, or
well, you are all over the place.
I am.
You truly are all over the place. And so I want to do for my audience to get to know you a little bit more. So brief background, where are you from? How do you describe yourself? How do you pay the bills?
Sure. So my name is Zubi. I am an independent rapper. I'm a hip hop artist. I've released 5 albums and 3 EPs so far, totally independently. I'm also an author. I wrote a fitness book last year called Strong Advice, which has now sold a couple thousand copies. I am the host of the Real Talk with Zubi podcast, which is a weekly podcast that I started at the beginning of last year. I also do coaching, various forms of coaching. I do public speaking as well. So it all started out with just the music. I've been a full-time musician since 2011, and I've added extra strings to my bow since then.
Yeah, so you really are across the board, basically a social influencer in many ways. Did you know that this is what you wanted to do? I mean, when you were in high school, and I don't know, as far as your education is concerned, what were you studying to become?
Okay, so when I was a child, I wanted to be a cartoonist when I was very young. So I've always been creative. I used to play piano, but I was primarily, beyond my schoolwork and stuff. I was an extremely good student at school. And yeah, I used to draw a lot. So that was kind of my main creative outlet. I did really well in school. I studied computer science at Oxford University here in the UK. I started rapping when I was in my first year of university. I released my first album, Commercial Underground, when I was in my second year of university. And yeah, that was when it all started. So by the time I graduated, I'd already released an album, had a little bit of local success with that. And yeah, I knew that I wanted to do more with my music, and everything, the focus was always on the music. It was always on the music. And
so, but creativity and art is one thing, but music is something completely different. You didn't study music?
No.
Or you said you studied piano, you knew how to play the piano. Was that just kind of chords and ear kind of playing?
No. So I had piano lessons from the age of maybe 7,
I
maybe
see.
seven up until about 13 when I eventually stopped just because I wasn't super passionate about it. Um, so yeah, that's how it started. But the hip hop started in university in terms of me making my own stuff.
Okay, just so you know, too, I think we have a little kinship there. My parents forced me to do piano, and I pushed my piano teacher because he was just too creepy
Oh
for
no.
me. So it's a different story altogether, different
Yeah.
world. But your first album, eh, was it truly a rap genre in your age category? Because there's something very unique about you.
Hmm.
Your music is very positive, from
Yeah, it
what
is.
I gather.
Yeah.
It- that's not necessarily true for the bigger version or the bigger genre of rap. To be honest, it reminds me a lot of old school rap.
Hmm. You know, every music genre has such a wide range. I mean, if you look at rock music, you've got everything from your Christian rock to your pop rock to your sort of soft rock. Then you've got heavy metal. Then within heavy metal, you've got like black metal, you've got death metal, like the
Yep.
super crazy, screamy stuff. You've got like stuff that's a lot more positive and uplifting. Hip hop is the same. You've always had forms of conscious hip hop. You've got gangster rap. You've got underground rap. You've got now like trap and all these different forms. And I it's true that a lot of the hip hop that gets pushed out in the mainstream and that people will hear in the nightclubs or at parties and stuff like that, it does tend to center around certain themes, right? Which could be deemed as, not somewhat negative in many ways. But there is a lot of positive hip hop out there, and
Sure.
there always has been. I think the problem is in terms of the balance and the amount of shine that tends to get. It does seem that people are,
Well, how did you make a niche then? Because let's
yeah,
admit it, bad news spreads faster than good news. You're a
always.
clean rapper.
Hmm.
That's just all there is
Yeah.
to it. From what I understand, too, you don't even cuss.
No, I don't. I don't cuss in real life, so I don't cuss in my music.
Hmm.
You know, like
Okay.
a lot of people say keep it real. A lot of people say be yourself. These are cliches at this point, but it's very rare for people to actually do that. And I've always done that from the beginning. So I know who I am. I know my background. I know my beliefs, my values, the way I was raised, my family, etc. And I don't swear in real life, so I'm not going to suddenly hit the studio and become a totally different person to who.
So the reason why I ask this, and I am going to get a little bit into your family background, we just want to
Hmm.
get to know who you are because, to be honest with you, it's inspiring, and
Thank
I
you.
hope that you feel gratified that a Catholic priest is inspired by a rapper. Well,
Certainly.
my nieces and nephews actually won Disney's Next Big Thing, and they have a lot of positive music as well, and so they kind of keyed me into who you are
Oh,
because
nice.
I'm old, dude. I'm just old. So try to figuring out what the young people are listening to these days, it can be very discouraging. Finding you has been kind of edifying. So you mentioned how you don't curse in real life. And
Hmm.
so why would you do it in the studio or on stage?
Hmm.
Why don't you? Because it seems like everybody else does.
Nobody in my family does.
And why? Tell me about that. What's the system or the foundation that just says, you know what? It's just not going to be a part of who we are.
Yeah, well, it's not necessary and it's not positive. Like I try not to use denigrating or degrading language, certainly unnecessarily. And I've never in my entire time I've been alive, there's never been a time where I felt, "Ooh, I need to use that word," right? I've whether I'm making music or I'm just communicating in real life, I've never found it necessary to use any of these terms. There's no, well, for what? It's totally unnecessary.
Well,
And
it's very logical of you. Very
yeah,
logical, but there's also got to be passion sometimes when it takes over. I will
yeah,
admit, I have
yeah,
dropped a few curse words
sure,
on occasion.
sure.
Someone cuts me off, I stub my toe. So, look, I'm going
Yeah.
to Zubi for confession, ladies and gentlemen. That's all there is. But I mean, what exactly is it? Because there seems to be a real consciousness
Hmm.
to do that. Where did you learn that from? Obviously, your parents, but what was
Yes.
their reason for telling you to do it when, in fact, everyone
They,
else is?
my parents never told me anything. They never told me, Zuby, you're not allowed to swear. But I didn't grow up around it. My siblings don't swear. I'm one of five children. My siblings don't. Even like if I go outside that, my aunties, my uncles, my cousins, I'm from a gigantic family, and I don't remember any of them dropping those words. So it's not even in my active vocabulary. Even if I stab my toe or someone cuts me off in traffic, the word that's at the forefront of my brain to say, if I'm going to say something, is not a curse word. It's not like I'm self-censoring. I don't have to consciously try not to swear. It's not like I want to and I'm fighting against it. It's like, yeah, of course I know those words, but
You
they're
are
not in my active
disgustingly good,
vocabulary.
Zubi. You're just
Oh
you're the
man,
kind of
I'm just a human. You know, I have my flaws like anybody else.
Okay, so there used to be guys in seminary that I went to school with who were just so good. We used to call them Adam before the fall. You're like the
Yeah.
Adam before the fall in the rap community. Props
Uh,
to you, my friend.
Thank you.
So I do want to ask you about your family background because you were born in England. Whereabouts? I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, so I won't
Hmm.
know a lot about it, but I've
Okay.
been there several times.
Okay. I was born in a city called Luton, which is about an hour north of London.
Small, big town. What is it?
Mid-sized town.
Mid-sized
Mid-sized
town,
town. Yeah.
and your parents are an intact family. You said you have four
Oh
other
yeah.
siblings, and
Hmm.
you know that's kind of a big family for London in the modern
Yeah.
day.
Well, my family is originally from Nigeria. Both of my parents are originally from Nigeria, so they came to the UK initially in the 70s, and then in the 80s they moved to, and then went back to Nigeria between that. But then in the 80s, mid 80s, we moved out to Saudi Arabia. So that's really where I grew up. All my first memories begin in Saudi Arabia because we left Nigeria when I was very, very young.
So you have had quite an international background, and I'm going to just tell you this: you sound like an American. Your
Mm,
accent is very almost Minnesota.
Minnesota. Yeah.
Where did you get that from? Because let's admit, our culture
Mhm.
and our surroundings do affect us. But you seem to be quite an anomaly, which is one of the reasons I'm trying to get to know
Mm,
you a little bit more.
yeah.
Um, where did you kind of get your education from? How intense were your parents involved in your own education and formation?
Um, okay, there's a couple questions there. So in terms of my
True.
accent, like I said, I grew up in Saudi Arabia. I was in the American school system from kindergarten up until fifth grade. So most of my teachers were American. The expat community I lived in, there were people from all over the world. But yeah, there was a lot of American influence. And I was in that until I was 11 years old. Then I went to boarding school in the UK before I went to university. But during that whole period of secondary school and university, I was going back and forth between the UK and Saudi Arabia multiple times a year. So that's where the accent comes from. So I've never, I only moved to the UK permanently in 2008.
Oh,
So I've been here on and off for 20 plus years, but I wasn't living here permanently until about 12 years ago. In terms of my education, so like I said, it started out in Saudi Arabia in the American school system, essentially, at an international school. I then went to boarding school in the UK, two different boarding schools, did really well there, went to Oxford, of course, one of the best universities in the world, studied there, did computer science. Um, and I'm a very naturally driven person. I've always worked hard. I'm not someone who ever needed like a gigantic kick in the butt or massive pressure from my parents or from my family to put in the work. It's just something that I'm naturally wired that way. Just like I've been self-employed for the past 8 or 9 years now, and
hmm.
I don't need someone over my shoulder to tell me to do work. Like I want to do work. So that's how it comes from. But I do come from a family that values education a lot. Everybody in my family, like not just immediate, but wider, everyone's gone to university, lots of master's degrees. My dad is a medical doctor. Like we're a very we're a
This
very
makes
high achieving
sense.
family. Yeah.
And are
Um,
you a close knit family? I mean, and
extremely,
what keeps your
extremely.
family close together? Do you have a faith base? Is it just culturally? Is it just because
All
your
the
mom
above.
cooks well? I mean, what's
All
up
the
with that?
above. All of them. All of them. We're
And
we're all.
what's your thoughts on basically the modern experiences of people who are trying to get in the industry because
Mhm,
you have a certain level of success. First of all, I'd like to hear what your definition is of success, and do
mhm.
you think you've achieved it?
I sort of have two definitions of success. One of them is a destination, and the other one I'd say is like a process. So, in terms of the destination, by my own personal standards, I do not yet consider myself successful because I've only scratched the surface of what I know I'm able to do and what I plan to do over the course of my lifetime. I've had successes, but there's so much stuff that I haven't yet done. I've maybe done, 3% of what I'm capable of.
Okay, so hold on a second. I'm just going to say you're disgusting in a Christian way. I mean, I mean, like these overachievers, big eye roll emoji. No, look, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. It's inspiring.
Look, my name, if you translate my name, the full version of my name, which is Unzubechuku, that translates to God's decision. That's what it means. It means God's decision or God's purpose. That's what my name means, okay? And I take that seriously. And in fact, my last name translates to our name will spread. Okay? So my actual name is pretty much God's will, our name will spread. That's what my name actually means. So I can't not fulfill my potential, right? I can't be someone who has low ambitions in this world.
All right, hold on. Another eye roll emoji. Now, does that fill you with a little bit of arrogance or pride then? I mean,
no.
Because I know many Nigerians, and I know a lot of Nigerian priests. They are a very proud group of people, for sure. I mean, if Wakanda was real, it would be there. I mean, that's just all there is to it. Yeah. But you do have a certain level of dignity. And so granted, you're striving for something great. What keeps you motivated? Because let's admit it, the higher you climb, the more people want to tear you down.
Oh, definitely. You become a bigger and bigger target. And, I've been experiencing that over the past year. I experience it every day. What keeps me motivated is knowing why I do what I do, right? My goal and everything I do is rooted around the desire to inspire other people. That's why I wanted to become a musician. I know that, look at the impact that hip hop and rap culture, let alone music and entertainment in general, has on the world. It's extremely powerful in terms of the things that people consider, especially with younger people. It's hard to sort of overstate its impact. There's a huge impact. I mean, I know it shaped me growing up in terms of, when I was a teenager and everything like that, even up until now, right? It's a big influence. And as you already alluded to, there is a lot of stuff there that is negative. There's also a lot of stuff that is positive. So it's like, wow, I can take this tool, this art form, this thing, and I can use this to inspire other people. And I know that I do that because whether I'm out in the real world in different cities or I'm online, I am constantly, I get people who stop me in the street for selfies or who just want to have a chat with me because they recognize me, whether it's through my music or they follow me on social media or whatever. Online, I get emails, DMs, messages, invitations to do podcasts from people telling me, hey, I love what you're doing.
Sure.
And so I know it's having an impact. So that's what drives me.
Does it get to your head? Does it get to your head a little bit?
No.
Then how do you stay? And there's a word that's oftentimes misunderstood. How do you stay humble when you're perfect in every way?
Oh gosh, because I'm not.
And I know you're not perfect, and I know you're not. But some people who have had the successes of it all. I mean, look, I've got a TV show, I've got a podcast, I've got a radio show. People want to take selfies with me too, but they're generally old ladies. All right, so that's my fan base. Your cool. Fan base are obviously your generation, a younger generation, and they can get to your head. How do you stay virtuous?
Yes, there's a couple of things. I think number one is that I do have beliefs. I do have principles. I do have values. I'm someone who does have values. I'm not just I have multiple anchors. I'm not just anchored to a lot of people are anchorless, right? They're not from a strong family. They don't have any faith. They don't have any belief. They don't really have any real strong purpose or meaning or moral foundation, etc. With me, thank God, I do have multiple things of this. So I am, I believe in God. I have my family who will always keep me grounded and keep me humble. I have a fantastic group of friends who, if I ever did, become super big headed or whatever, I've got people who will stop that. And again, I think part of it is just personality. Part of it is just personality. It's also worth bearing in mind that the journey's been really slow, man. Like I released my first album in 2006. I'm not someone who I suddenly stepped on the scene and all of a sudden I'm some huge megastar or whatever. Like I'm still not a huge megastar.
Sure.
So it's been very gradual. So I've been able to sort of slowly adapt and appreciate and get to a stage where, okay, I can deal with, it's like going to the gym, like the more reps you do, the more you put in,
Oh, don't
the
make
more
me
you
feel
can,
bad. Don't you make me feel bad, sir.
you train up towards it, right?
Sure.
If you take someone who never trains and you just throw a massive weight on there, they get flattened. But if over time you slowly increase that, then you adapt and you're able to deal with it.
I've got a question for you here. What's going to be next for Zuby?
Wow. I mean, I'm already doing all the things that I want to, pretty much. I just want to do them more and better and on a bigger scale, and to just keep reaching more people.
And do you see that this is going to be your future, or do you find yourself eventually longing for a very steady 9 to 5 job?
Oh
Artists
no,
are very
no,
all over the place.
no. I've chosen my path. I haven't picked this path to go back to having a corporate job. I did work in the corporate world for 3 years after I graduated, and
And this might be too personal, and you can answer any way you want. Marriage, is that kind of in your cards, in your purview?
yeah, definitely. I want to have my own family in the future. No question. Like,
All right.
absolutely.
Final question here for
Yeah.
this first part here.
Okay.
Getting to know Zuby, which has actually been quite edifying for me. It's a breath of fresh air. I think you might have even heard that a few times. And
Thank you.
perhaps even like a new odor of goodness, because this world can be pretty stinky at times. You've never met me before. We don't know each other, but getting to know you is edifying. What can I, as a Catholic priest, do to help Zuby?
Wow. I don't know. Pray for me, man. Pray for me.
That's such a standard answer there.
It's true, though.
You're way
It's
more
true.
creative, and I'm glad you believe it, and I will.
Yeah.
But is there anything else you think a Catholic priest can do? Because we're more than just people who pray.
Yeah. Off the top of my head, I don't know. It's something I'd have to think about. But, even doing this and having this conversation, I appreciate it.
All right. Well, listen, I am going to be back with my carry-out order. What did I learn from this conversation with Zuby? And I've learned a lot. So make sure that you stick around for my carry-out order here on Shoot the Shiitake. Zuby, thank you. Really, I appreciate your time. We'll be back in just a moment. And welcome back for my carry-out order, having a deep dish discussion with Zuby. I hope you enjoyed that. It's certainly edifying for me to see a young man, and he's in his 30s. He's a young man, obviously, and he's kind of making it for himself without the traditional platforms where you kind of have to almost sell your soul in order to get the followers and the views. And one thing I didn't ask him, and I know it's probably because I knew the answer, how did he gain so many followers? He gained so many followers and so much kind of local notoriety, and with the internet, obviously even international notoriety, because he's got a positive message. He's got a message that people want to listen to. So he's got a good brand, to be honest with you. Second thing, he's been able to collaborate with other people. I know that he's been on the Joe Rogan podcast, and I'm certainly pleased to have him on mine. And with that, he just kind of grows his communities by building bridges with his message, and also kind of with a stunning personality, to be honest with you. He's got a real positive, formal, clean-cut vibe to him that just makes him, let's admit it, easy to listen to and easy to relate to. I love his name, God's Decision. That's pretty serious stuff, but it really goes to show what's in a name. So his real name is something different. I can't even pronounce it because I actually don't fully know it. I'm sure I can figure it out, but the fact is he's taken his name seriously. And where did he get his name from? From his family. So one of my carry-out orders is knowing that his success, or his definition of success, and his desire to survive, to strive for success, is really coming not just from his nature. He's got a good kind of temperament. He's a driven person. He's a hard worker. But it's also by nurture. Who are the people who surrounded him? And if there's one thing that I've learned, just being an international person myself, having been born in the Philippines, studying in Europe, living in America, and traveling around the globe, giving talks and lectures and presentations, is that the more you have a chance to see the world, the more it shapes your opinion, humbles you. You can be a jet setter and just be a jerk, or you could be an international person and use those experiences to humble you and to make you realize the world does not evolve around you. But yeah, you're just a small part of a bigger picture, and you're going to have to leave a legacy. And I think in Zubi's case, he just wants to, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it seems to me he wants to leave something positive for people. I mean, the fact that he doesn't cusses, he doesn't cuss at all. That's pretty good. I have confessed using foul language on occasion, sometimes on more than one occasion. I don't like it, and I don't do it in public, but sometime if I'm alone, and some bad news comes, I might do the holy shiitake, but perhaps that's one reason why people were kind of offended when I came out with Shoot the Shiitake podcast. They thought that I was being crass, but I really wasn't. It was just me trying to make connections to the world, and that's kind of what Zubi has done with his art, with his creativity, with his music. He's been able to make connections, but kind of keep it clean, and more importantly, keeping it real. That's what you find in people like him. He's just being who he is on stage as he is in real life. But he got good in real life because God gave him a blessing for sure, but also because he had something nurturing, supporting him. He would even use that word, kind of anchoring him. And that's a beautiful gift for all of us, and hopefully a carry-out order for you. Once again, if you enjoyed this show, please share it with others and support us by simply becoming a tiered member on the Plating Grace Academy, academy.platinggrace.com, where you'll get extra perks and a lot of cool exclusive content, and we can bring about conversions, a turning towards each other just with conversation. And between now and the next time we kind of shoot the shiitake, I want to thank Zubi for joining me, and also thank you for listening. And between now and then, stay hungry.